Hey guys, Pete here. Gonna be looking at Mr. Robot Season 3 stuff today. This teaser isn't actually new. It surfaced on the Mr. Robot Facebook page a few days ago, but they added a higher resolution version on their YouTube channel yesterday. It's a short one, but there's a bunch of frames in there you could miss if you're watching it in real time. I decided not to add the teaser itself here because, as you know, if you've ever tried to watch Mystery Robot stuff outside of the US, they have a really strange blocking policy. I don't understand it completely, but their trailers are always free to use under fair use, but because of the way they use their show promotion, they must have some weird distribution rights in different countries, so they blocked both of my last two Season 3 trailer breakdowns in various countries. So we're just going to stick to the stills instead. Also stick around until the end because I'm doing a rewatch for Season 1 I'll tell you about and making videos about that. The trailer starts with Elliot sitting in what appears to be Krista's office. We assume it is her office because the voiceover is Krista, and she's doing some sort of relaxation, hypnosis, hypnotherapy. I don't know exactly how to describe it. She starts out saying, "Elliot, I'd like you to close your eyes." We see him do that. He's sitting in front of a bookshelf, which I say that it appears to be her office because in previous episodes we've never actually seen these books. She has two smaller bookshelves in her office in Season 1, and as far as I can remember, she still had those in all the scenes we've seen there. Elliot has always been seated on a couch in front of the windows as well, but whatever is happening hypnosis-wise, it seems to be coming in a meeting with her. She says, "Why don't you sit back and relax?" And we see the door sequence from the Evil Corp headquarters from the previous trailers. We see him coming out of the revolving door looking like what I would call bewildered without much more context. Then there's a cut to him taking his medication and putting the bottle back where we can tell that it's sertraline, which is a garden variety antidepressant that is sold under the brand name Zoloft in the US, and it can also be used for PTSD and anxiety disorders. She continues, "Let's take a moment, listen to the sound of my voice." In the Ferris wheel at Coney Island, we find Elliot talking to Mr. Robot. Mr. Robot's clothing here is different than when we first saw them together in the Ferris wheel scene, so it's not a flashback to the first time Elliot visited the arcade. It could very well be a flashback, though. We just don't have any other indication of when this happens. After that, it cuts to Tyrell, who's sitting in front of what looks like an elevator door. And then we get a sort of blast of scenes. In quick succession, we see the policemen in riot gear get hit in the head with a bottle. Then a shot of Tyrell yelling in front of a terminal with Angela sitting next to him. And Darlene being thrown against a wall in the FBI interview room by who I assume is Santiago. It's worth mentioning that it continually cuts back to Elliot sitting on the couch with his eyes closed in between all this stuff. I'm just not going to repeat that every single time it happens. This could be an indication that he's remembering these things, but he isn't physically present in all of the scenes as far as we can tell. The voiceover continues, "Now take a deep breath." Elliot and Darlene are in his apartment, which we've seen from previous trailers, and we guess that they are trying to stop stage 2. Then there is an interesting sequence. It starts out with Elliot grabbing Darlene as it looks like she's trying to leave the apartment. He pushes her against the wall, and while this is happening, we see it change over to Mr. Robot. At the end, it's Mr. Robot that has her pinned against the wall, so this could be more of that glitching that we saw in Season 2. From that, we get another look at Elliot flying against the wall. This is probably similar to when he was fighting with Mr. Robot in Season 2, since you don't see anyone there with him. Angela is coming out of an office and her eye makeup is smeared from crying. It looks like the floodlights are flashing where she is, and we get a better indication of where this is later. The voiceover continues, "I think this will help you." Dom shows up with gun drawn again, which we've seen, and it cuts to Darlene approaching what looks like someone's front door with Dom walking behind her. I talked about this in my previous trailer breakdown, and there isn't any extra added footage here. After that, there's a sequence of hand shots. The first one is drilling out a hard drive, and that one cuts to a hand clicking on a mouse. They're both shots of hands, and they don't look like the same hands. The one clicking the mouse looks a lot more slender to me, and it could be the same as Elliot's hands, which we see next on the keyboard after that. After the keyboard, we see someone using a keycard to pass through a turnstile. The keycard looks like a work ID or a badge, so this could be entering the E Corp building. It's really quick though and not all that clear, so we're using contextual clues here to guess that he's going into the building that we see him come out of later. It goes back to Elliot on the couch, and then we see the popcorn machine from Coney Island get smashed. Looks like Elliot's hoodie, and it looks like he's just smashing the glass with a bare fist. And there also may be someone standing off to the right, but I can't tell for sure. There's a quick cut to Joanna Wellick riding in what looks like her SUV. We see the security guard at E Corp struggling with the protesters again in the lobby. Then there's a shot of Elliot going into his apartment, walking up the front steps as soldiers are walking by on the street. There's a shot of Irving, who's played by Bobby Carnavale's character, at the bottom of a set of stairs. Nothing to actually say where this is. The unidentified person wearing the fsociety mask shows up again. We saw a longer look at this in one of the social media teasers they put out. So we know that there are agents rushing into the room, but we don't know who it is or where it is. There's a quick flash of Philip Price and Tyrell in the latter's apartment. I mentioned the timeline on this, and it's confusing, but it seems like it would be a flashback. Another shot of Elliot with his hand in front of his face, standing in front of the red books on the shelf. Again, we don't know exactly where this one is. We get Angela, who looks like she's wearing the same clothes that she was wearing in the shot where she had been crying. Only in this shot, she's wearing the smeared F-Society mask. This could be blood on the mask, it could be something else, but we've seen this before. It looks like Elliot is running behind her, but there's also a third person, and I have no idea who they are. She's clearly standing in front of an E Corp plaque on the wall, so that gives us confirmation that all these scenes are in E Corp offices. And they look to be overrun with all the spray paint damage on the walls. So this could be the headquarters post when we see the scuffle outside, or it could be something else, you know what I mean? We really can't say for sure. But outside the elevator, you can definitely see there's an E Corp plaque on the wall, so it's in one of their buildings. There's a shot of someone who looks like Elliot smashing a fire extinguisher through a window and a door. They could have an F-Society mask on here, but I'm not exactly sure. There's someone I don't recognize at all on the other side. Doing what? I have no idea. They could be hiding. They could be waiting it out. Something like that. On the door, there's a sign with red shoes, or more precisely, ruby slippers. And when you zoom in, it says there's no place like, and then there's an IP address, which is 127001. Now that is a looping IP address that's used for the local machine. It's a reference to the Wizard of Oz. I don't know if this is an indication that this is a dream. It kind of feels that way to me, though. I mean, you can't really think of too many places where you would see this sign up in an official capacity, but it would make sense in, say, a dream Elliot was having. But, you know, the other stuff doesn't really jive. I mean, I don't really know. It's pretty mysterious at this point. Then the voiceover finishes off by Krista saying Elliot as a question. And we see him open his eyes, and we see him open his eyes to end the trailer. So there's a lot of interesting stuff here, and I think what I come away with the most, and it relates to something that Sam Esmail said, was that there's going to be a confusing timeline in Season 3. I mean, it may make total sense, but Esmail said that they're going to be telling things in a circular fashion, like filling in details from the past. That's a paraphrase, but that's the way that I interpreted what he said. And so I think that some of this stuff would be flashback related. Obviously, breaking the popcorn machine is one of the most interesting things, and that could tie into what he said about in a month from now, we'll be talking about that one scene. We may actually get to look into those 3 days during the 5-9 hack that Elliot can't remember. The E-Corp building being overrun is a pretty big question mark, I guess. I mean, we don't expect that people won't fight back in the situation that they're in. But I mean, the damage that we see and the fact that the floodlights are flashing and there's smoke in some of these scenes, is that in the same building? Some major event is going to happen against E-Corp proper. Is that stage 2? Well, we know stage 2 is basically supposed to bring a building down, so it's not necessarily related, but I'm sure it's all tied together in one way or the other. They did release another short teaser yesterday as well, and it's just a montage of old things basically, but it's Elliot saying that he found a way to hit undo, and then we see a rewind of all these events that happened in previous seasons, and it looks like it's foreshadowing the fact that he's going to try to undo the damage caused by the 5/9 hack. I decided not to make a specific breakdown for that yet because it might be a part of something else, and they have been throwing out a lot of interesting stuff on their Twitter and Facebook accounts leading up. So at the very least, I'll probably do a trailer recap of all the different things that they've been putting out there, but I didn't want to make a separate video for each one. However, I do think this close your eyes thing is pretty important, and it leads to questions about, is Krista on Elliot's side? I tend to think that she is. I tend to think that she's trying to help him. He's obviously trying to block out Mr. Robot, but he's also trying to remember things that have happened that he did as Mr. Robot and can't remember. So I think in general, I think the intentions are good there. It also brings up the idea that I've seen a lot of people talking about, that Santiago is likely in bed with the Dark Army, and that Dom may be going rogue in that scene where we see her sort of on her own with the gun. Now, there are several different reasons to think that. I won't go into all of them here, but one of the biggest ones is the stuff that happened in China. And then we also had whenever Cisco, when he wanted to make Cisco's identity public. I mean, those things could be influenced by a connection with the Dark Army for sure. Could be straight tinfoil as well, but somehow I think Dom is a good guy, even though she works for the FBI. So I think there will be some graying, I think she'll be working outside of the FBI framework at some point. So let me know what you think. Have you been following all this stuff? Like, where's your head at for season 3 right now? I think that this shows that there may be some dreams as well as some actual flashbacks, which is interesting. A show that's built on mystery it's good if we get some answers. What's your favorite clip here? I thought that the idea of seeing him glitch when he's going against Darlene is interesting. Also, when I first saw it, I didn't notice that Angela was in the scene with Tyrell where he's screaming at the computer. So we did kind of see her in there with Irving, I should say. So yeah, I'm curious to see, we saw Angela cross over kind of in an official sense when she met with White Rose, but I'm interested to see if she had more involvement before that helped tip the scales. So let me know what you guys think. Please make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel. I'm getting ready to go full Mr. Robot mode as the season gets started. Of course, I'll still be doing my other things, but I really love Mr. Robot and can't wait to follow this. I am also doing a season 1 rewatch, which you can join along if you want. I'm going to get videos up for all of those episodes since I don't have them. I started Mr. Robot in season 2. So I'll be trying to get all those done in the next couple of weeks to have them ready before the season comes out. Make sure that you check out my Patreon account if you're interested in helping to keep this thing going. Mr. Robot's not the most popular show, so it doesn't get huge views, but I'm dedicated to do it, and I love it, so I'm going to, whether it makes good sense financially or not. Follow me on social media. You can interact with me over on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and thanks for watching, guys. I'll talk to you soon.